Hello and welcome back. The Sri Lankan army says it is confident that it is now in control of the country's eastern region. But locals fear the presence of a variety of armed groups, which they say rule with impunity. And they also say that rather than being kept in check, these groups are now allowed to enter the political arena. Graffiti all over the Pt2 district proclaims a new political organization in the area, the Tamil People's Liberation Party, or TMVP. Its leader is Colonel Karuna, who was in charge of the LTTE's eastern forces for years. In 2004, he claimed that the Tiger Command in the north was ignoring the eastern Tamils and broke away. Since then, the two sides have been at war, and many believe that Karuna's defection helped the army's success in the east. While the military admit that they have a shared goal, they deny any collaboration.
Army is not collaborating with Karuna because we don't want to have any paramilitaries or other armed groups to do operations, because we are much powerful and we have showed that.
The whole of Pt2 town is plastered with these posters. They're TMVP posters showing images of dead cadres killed by the LTTE. On it is a TMVP logo that shows a tiger blatantly similar to the LTTE logo from whom they've taken over. The TMVP are trying to become the Tamil representatives in the east. Many say that by failing to restrain Karuna, the government has let a genie out of the bottle, which has led to a rule of intimidation, extortion and murder. Local people seem to be afraid. They said that as long as the LTTE was there, they ruled with an iron fist. And now that the LTTE is gone, that there could be an emergence of various armed groups and factions.
Gradually, the police will get hold of the areas and maintain law and order. So these groups or anybody, those who are carrying weapons without authority, they will be dealt with.
Yet many locals continue to feel that the police are turning a blind eye to groups like Karuna's at their expense. Sri Lanka's third ethnic group are the Muslims, stuck in the divide between the Tamils and the majority Sinhalese. They are a minority of 8% in the country, but in the east they make up a third of the population. The Muslims of Katankudi have little reason to trust Karuna. He was the LTTE military commander in 1990 when Tamil Tigers entered the Mira Juma Mosque and gunned down 103 men and boys. The bullet holes in the walls have been left as an act of remembrance. Today, many Muslims fear the rising power of the TMVP.
This is the warning. This is a very urgent request. This is from the Pt2 district Tamil-speaking people. My dearest Tamil Muslims people, you have to leave from your land before 13/4/2007 on midnight from Tamil areas. You are occupied. They are saying to Muslims.
Muslim leaders stress that they have no quarrel with the general Tamil population.
We are all arranged within a daytime, 14,000 of parcel we hand over to the refugees, Tamil refugees. The Tamil people are very good with us. We are very good with them. But only the problem we are facing, the group of people.
Karuna's group.
Yeah, these people are dead against us. I don't know why.
Appeals to the government have largely gone unanswered. Is the situation for you worse now than it was when the LTTE was around?
You know, actually, yeah, that is difficult. They are afraid to comment. Sometimes. That is very sensitive area, this one. They are afraid always. That's why they don't like to comment.
These days, many are reluctant to voice an opinion in Sri Lanka. We found few international agencies who would talk to us on the record. UNICEF was one that would.
I think there's a climate of fear. You know, there is an escalating conflict here. There are various armed groups involved. There's an increasing record of disappearances in Sri Lanka over the past year, which is worrying human rights groups all over the world. and there is a record of impunity.
One local who isn't afraid to talk is the head of the Pt2 branch of the EPRLF. They are a former militant Tamil group decimated by the tigers, which has now renounced violence. Is that actually a bullet wound on your arm?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Were you shot there?
83.
How did that happen?
From Sri Lankan forces. East la na una sonna nanaman. The aida vanmura adhikkam enikku adhan inja decision maker.
So how can the Tamils of the East find representation?
illa adu yenama inga arms the aida inja decision maker arms da. Naan like arms eduthaniyana 5000 peroda naan illa.
You say that anybody who speaks out is in grave danger for his or her life. How can you speak out and not take a risk yourself?
Naan eppey settitten. Adala mudinja kada.
And what role does the Karuna group now play?
Adathan je Karnataka group pullayila pudichirukku training kodukkudu aakala training aakala vechirukku seidu Karnataka.
At the moment, we have about 1,800 children that we consider are on the books, as it were, with the LTTE, and the number I think is about 190, 94, 95 with the Karuna faction. We estimate that the number that we have in our database represents about a third of the actual figure of children who are forcibly recruited.
As we make repeated visits to the TMVP office in Pt2 to try and get an interview, we are struck by the number of teenage-looking boys who hang around the place. When we try to film them, they disappear, but when we leave we can see their faces watching us from these windows. One of those faces could have belonged to the 17-year-old son of this woman, the only witness who will talk to us, as long as we conceal her identity.
My son went into town to find a place where he could study for his A-levels. Karuna's people saw him and talked to him for a long time. A few days later he went missing. After 2 or 3 days we heard that he was at the TMVP compound. We went and found him there. There were many boys his age. We asked them to let him go. They said he had come voluntarily, but the look on his face showed he was not all right. He got ready to come home, but they stopped him. They told him, "Don't you dare go or we will shoot you." He is still with them.
On our last visit to the TMVP, Karuna's boys quickly hide their guns from the camera. But we do get an audience with one of the TMVP's commanders, Thilipan. I'm sure you know this report. It's the Human Rights Watch report that was issued earlier this year. This report says that your group has abducted children as young as 11 years old to force them to fight in your forces. Can you respond to that?
We are also concerned about children's safety. These children come to us because they have problems at home. If they are coming to join us, it's because they are suffering at home.
When we asked Thilipan about TMVP photographs which we have obtained, which show armed boys who look under 18, he claims that they are older than they look.
If you compare the average Sri Lankan's growth to that of people living in Europe or abroad, it's actually much less. I'm 37, but a lot of people say I look much younger.
So none of the children in the pictures are under 18?
Actually, I'm not trying to deny anything. We have a military section as well. There may have been some mistakes made in that quarter. We have taken note of it. Karuna is quite determined that children should not be involved.
Yet Thilipan himself is in the pictures, and they were taken only this March. We showed them to Gordon Weiss at UNICEF. He's can't be 18.
I wouldn't say it's proof, but it's persuasive. But they look young, huh? Very young. Interesting. I'll save that to my desktop if that's all right.
Despite various reports by human rights organizations, the authorities have done little to address the recruitment of child soldiers. Coming up is one of the 14 checkpoints between Pt2 town and Karuna's training camps near Velikanda. International observers say it is virtually impossible for Karuna to pass his child soldiers through these checkpoints without the complicity of the security forces?
Well, child soldiers, when they don't have any weapon, all are civilians. So even you take the Corona or LTT or anybody in those areas, when they don't have weapon, they are civilians. They are just they can go through anywhere, any checkpoint without any problem, because they are just civilians.
The allegation of complicity between some sections of the Sri Lankan armed forces and the Karuna group has been raised as an allegation by the UN in November, when a special ambassador came here on a fact-finding mission and presented his findings to the government of Sri Lanka. We're waiting for a full and satisfactory answer to those allegations. The government has made moves to investigate, but as yet we've seen nothing convincing.
Artillery guns and mortars pound the guerrillas.
For many in East Sri Lanka, the government's most convincing argument remains its show of firepower. Recently, the army drove the LTTE from their last eastern enclave. Yet territory has endlessly been taken and retaken, and it remains to be seen whether or not the army can hold the east it has won. In its wake, the military campaign has left a mass of refugees, an armed Tamil group that much of the population fears, and security forces which they are afraid to turn to. None of the civilians we spoke to see the military option as a path to peace. As the campaign escalates in its move onto the Tigers' heartlands in the north, all they envisage is yet more suffering in a war without end. If you have any thoughts about whether the conflict in Sri Lanka's east is finally over or how the humanitarian crisis can be resolved, please get in touch with us on aljazeera.net/English. That's it for the program. Until next time, goodbye.